At the beginning of the story, we see the city of Edo in Japan. This city was once known as the land of samurai warriors. But soon, strange creatures called Amantos invaded the city and completely turned its landscape upside down. After some time, a terrible war broke out between the Amantos and humans, during which these dangerous beings vowed to completely wipe out the human race. That's when a group of samurai warriors united and took it upon themselves to fight the Amantos and drive them off the earth. However, many of those samurai were martyred in this fierce battle. But even after that, the fear of samurais became so deeply rooted in the minds of the aliens that they banned the use of swords on humans. To save their lives, humans had to accept the conditions laid out by these aliens. After this, we are introduced to a samurai named Shinpachi, who had to take a job in a restaurant after swords were banned. But the problem was that he struggled with daily chores. One day, his boss asked him to serve milk to two tiger-like aliens sitting at a table. However, one of the tigers intentionally tripped Shinpachi and then blamed him for spilling the milk. While Shinpachi was cleaning the mess, the tiger alien pushed him hard and threw him away. Watching this, another samurai named Jintoki, who was present there, was filled with rage. Jintoki landed a powerful blow on the tiger's chest and knocked him out. Seeing this, the second tiger realized that Jintoki was a samurai, so he accused him of carrying a sword. Jintoki replied that it was merely a wooden sword and still enough to defeat both of them. Soon after, Jintoki and Shinpachi became friends, and along with a girl named Kagura, they started doing small tasks for people to earn a living. One day, they heard news about a strange beetle, and whoever found it would be rewarded handsomely. So the three of them set out into the forest to search for it. There, they encountered a man named Kodo, who had covered his entire body with honey and was standing like a statue in the forest. Apparently, beetles are fond of honey, and he believed the beetle would come to him, and he would catch it. However, Shinpachi and his friends found the idea completely foolish, so they didn't waste time and continued with their mission. A little further, they met another man who was applying mayonnaise on trees to attract the beetle. As they went deeper, they saw a massive beetle hanging from a tree, much larger than they had imagined. Nevertheless, Kagura used her powerful strike and knocked it down to the ground. But then it was revealed that this wasn't a real beetle. It was a boy named Okita disguised as one because he too was trying to lure the beetle in. Within moments, all the people searching for the beetle gathered there in a crowd. Soon, an argument broke out over who would catch the beetle first. Just then, a golden-colored beetle flew into the area, and Shinpachi and his friends were the first to chase after it. The rest followed quickly, and the chase led them through the jungle into the village. Meanwhile, Kondo caught sight of a girl named Tae, with whom he was madly in love, and he suddenly started running after her. Tae looked very innocent, but in reality, she had a fierce temper. As soon as Kondo got close to her, she struck him with a baseball bat and flung him far away. After this, we are introduced to a boy named Kondo. He had once fought alongside the samurais during the war. At that time, he was accompanied by his large bird companion named Elizabeth. While with Elizabeth, Kondo spotted his old friend Jintoki being chased by a group of men. He immediately realized that Jintoki was in trouble and stepped in to break the bones of those men. All of them drew their weapons, and a fierce battle began. Though they attacked Kondo together, he alone beat them all to a pulp. On one side, Kondo was thrashing the beetle hunters, and on the other side, Jintoki and his friends reached the golden beetle. The beetle had no way to escape now. But suddenly, a giant frog-like fish emerged from a pond and swallowed the beetle whole. Seeing this, the trio was heartbroken. All their effort had gone to waste. That night, a man named Nizo approached Kondo and declared that his sword thirsted for the blood of a samurai like him. The moment Kondo saw his sword, he knew it wasn't an ordinary one. Something was off. Kondo tried to defend himself from Nizo's strike, but with just a single blow, Nizo cut him into pieces. The next day, the news spread like wildfire. When Elizabeth saw her master Kondo's dead body, she immediately sought help from Jintoki and his friends. When they asked her questions, Elizabeth broke down crying. Just then, Jintoki heard the voice of a customer and went to meet him. He met a man named Tatsuya, who had come with his sister Tetsuo. Tatsuya was deaf in one ear, which is why he always shouted while speaking. Meanwhile, his sister remained silent. Tatsuya told Jintoki that a priceless sword made by his family had been stolen. He added that the sword glows red under moonlight and is extremely dangerous. No human can wield it. Tatsuya's father had died just a month after forging that sword, and everyone who had touched it since then had also died. Tatsuya believed the sword was cursed, one that captures human souls. Now he wanted Jintoki to retrieve that sword. Jintoki asked him a few questions, upon which his sister said that he only hears if spoken loudly. So Jintoki yelled into his ear, but it turned out to be his good ear, and Tatsuya punched him hard, telling him to speak more softly. Meanwhile, Elizabeth took Shinpachi and Kagura to the bridge where Kondo was killed and showed them his blood-soaked bag. Kagura had her large dog Sadaharu sniff the blood-stained bag, mounted it, and rode off to track down the killer. Back with Jintoki, after meeting Tatsuya, he met Okita, who told him about a swordsman who was killing people in the city. He added that the man's sword glowed red. Hearing this, Jintoki immediately realized that it was the same sword stolen from Tatsuya's house. Meanwhile, Shinpachi and Elizabeth continued their investigation when a villager confronted them. Suspicious of their intentions, he asked them to leave. But suddenly, Nizo arrived and sliced the man into pieces with his sword. Elizabeth tried to protect Shinpachi, but was also killed by Nizo. Nizo was about to kill Shinpachi too, but just in time, Jintoki arrived and snatched the sword from Nizo's hands. Jintoki then realized that Nizo was the one who had killed his friend Kondo. At that moment, a fierce duel broke out between the two. Nizo tried to kill Jintoki using the cursed sword's powers, but Jintoki defended himself using just his wooden sword. In the process, he fell from the bridge, but even then, he did not give up. He kept fighting, but eventually, Nizo stabbed him in the stomach with the cursed blade. Seeing this, Shinpachi gathered the courage and cut off one of Nizo's arms. Soon, Okita arrived with the rest of the samurais. Realizing he couldn't fight all of them together, Nizo fled the scene. On the other side, Jintoki had lost a lot of blood, so Shinpachi and Okita rushed him to the hospital. Later, we see Kondo practicing swordsmanship when Okita and Toshi came to meet him. They informed him that during the war with the aliens, the strongest warrior, Takasuji, had returned to Edo as Nizo's ally. Their plan was to gather extremely dangerous warriors and form a group that would take control over the entire region. That night, while Kagura and Sadaharu were walking, they spotted a ship. On the ship's roof, Kagura saw a man playing music. She approached him with her umbrella raised and warned him that if he didn't turn around, she would kill him. But the moment he turned, Kagura realized that he was an incredibly dangerous man. Suddenly, gunfire erupted from all directions, and Kagura had to run for her life. The ones behind the ambush were Nizo's allies, including Mitako. While hiding, Kagura managed to reach Mitako and pointed her gun at her. They both stood there pointing weapons at each other. Kagura then distracted Mitako and knocked her unconscious with a kick. As soon as she tried to escape, several samurai surrounded her, but none of them were a match for her. Kagura defeated everyone one by one using the power of her chest, but in the end, Mitaka shot her from behind. However, Kagura was still alive and was absolutely not ready to give up. She fired back at Mitaka and ran away, eventually reaching a secret room. Soon, Mitaka arrived there and said that now that Kagura had seen this place, she wouldn't let her live at any cost. Moments later, gunshots were heard. The next morning, Jintoki woke up in his home, with Tai taking care of him. Tai's responsibility was to ensure Jintoki didn't leave his bed until he was fully recovered. But Jintoki wanted to go help Shinpachi and Kagura, so he got up, though Tai stopped him using her special weapon. Meanwhile, Shinpachi was searching for Kagura on the streets when he found Sadaharu. Sadaharu brought him to a ship, and Shinpachi realized Kagura was inside. When he tried to enter, a samurai drove him away. Shinpachi then came up with a new plan to get inside the ship, but he had no idea that Nizo was already on board. Inside the ship, Mitaka told Nizo that now that his hand was cut off, he was powerless. But Nizo, furious, used the powers of his cursed sword to bind Mitaka. A while later, he let her go and said that even after losing an arm, she was still the strongest. Back at Jintoki's house, the doorbell rang. Tai opened the door, and it was Tatsuko. Upon hearing her voice, Jintoki asked her to come in and began preparing to escape. At that moment, he found a note written by Tai in his clothes which read, "Make sure to return my umbrella when you come back." She already knew Jintoki was going to leave. Jintoki then met an old man, hoping to get a powerful weapon to face his enemies. Since he was already badly injured, he needed something strong. The old man gave him a large fruit and said that eating it would turn his body into rubber. But Jintoki wasn't interested in such powers. The old man then admitted the fruit was fake and laughed, saying, "You fool, become rubber." Now, Jintoki had no special weapon to defeat his enemies, but still, he left with Tatsuko to help his friends. Meanwhile, Kagura was being executed aboard the ship. Mitaka and Takashi tried to interrogate her, but Kagura didn't say a single word about her friends. Instead, she vomited all over them. Enraged, Mitaka pointed a gun at her again, but right at that moment, Shinpachi arrived and declared he would save Kagura. When Mitaka asked where his comrades were, Shinpachi said he had come alone. Mitaka moved forward to beat him, but just then, pirates attacked the ship. While everyone was busy fighting them off, Shinpachi freed Kagura, and together they went looking for Kuduro. Meanwhile, Shinsengumi soldiers infiltrated the ship, but their captain Okita and Tashi stayed outside. The captain said he wasn't afraid of death as long as the three of them were together. Then he jumped toward the ship, but fell straight into the sea. His comrades continued the mission without rescuing him. Soon, Jintoki and Tatsuko also reached the scene. Tatsuko handed Jintoki a sword she had forged herself to help him combat the cursed sword. But they still had to figure out how to get aboard the ship. Just then, the old man whom Jintoki had met earlier arrived and gave them a flying board. Inside the ship, fighting continued. Nizo appeared before Okita and Tashi. They announced their intention to arrest him for causing terror and taking innocent lives in Edo City. Okita fired his bazooka at Nizo, but he split the bullet in two using his sword. That's when they realized this wasn't an ordinary sword. Okita abandoned Tashi and fled, leaving him to die. Meanwhile, Shinpachi and Kagura discovered a lab inside the ship, filled with swords similar to the cursed one. Suddenly, Takasuji arrived and tried to attack them. But just in time, Elizabeth came in and launched a powerful machine gun attack with her beak. She trapped Takasuji and told her friends to escape. Takasuji, however, decapitated Elizabeth, only to discover Kagura underneath the costume. Terrified, Takasuji fled, and Shinpachi and Kagura asked Kagura to chase him while they stayed to fight Mitaka and Takashi. Tashi faced off with Nizo, and although he fought bravely, he couldn't last long against the cursed sword. Just then, Jintoki arrived aboard the ship and told Tashi to go after Takasuji. Jintoki now stepped up to face Nizo himself. In the first strike, Nizo attacked Jintoki's wounds, but Jintoki proved that his injuries wouldn't stop him. Soon, his skill grew powerful enough to match the cursed sword. The sword fully possessed Nizo, turning his arms into star-like blades to attack Jintoki. Meanwhile, Shinpachi was, for the first time in his life, facing an enemy directly, and Takashi tried to exploit his fear. On the other hand, Mitaka kept firing at Kagura, but Kagura dodged every shot. She was so fast she could catch bullets in midair. She threw Mitaka to the ground, and just as she was about to kill her, Nizo fell from the ceiling. Nizo had now taken on a beastly form and, with no control over his body, was being forced by the cursed sword to attack even his own comrade, Takashi. Mitaka struck back, but even she was defeated by Nizo. The cursed sword had fully consumed Nizo's body. It then formed a blade from its wires to kill Jintoki. But just then, Tatsuko struck the sword with her own handmade sword. At that moment, Kagura and Shinpachi also joined in to help defeat Nizo. But Nizo broke free again and attacked Tatsuko. Her brother Tatsuya jumped in to save her, risking his life. At the same time, Jintoki regained consciousness, picked up his sword, and launched a final attack on the cursed sword. Though his own sword broke in two, the attack was so fierce that the beast inside Nizo was destroyed, and the cursed sword freed Nizo. Finally, Nizo's soul found peace after being wounded by Tatsuko's sword, and it drifted away like pink petals. After Nizo's death, Kagura tried to convince Takasuji to abandon his plan of destroying Edo. But suddenly, an alien pig grabbed him. Soon, many more Amantos arrived on the ship. When Okita and Tashi met Jintoki, he told them to take their friends and escape the ship as soon as possible. Then he began searching for Takasuji and was shocked to see that the same Takasuji who once fought by his side against the Amantos was now working with them. At that moment, a powerful explosion occurred, allowing Kagura to break free from the aliens. Just then, Mitaka and Takashi regained consciousness and arrived to save their comrades. But Takasuji told them to leave because he knew that, in the end, he would have to face Jintoki, a fight he had already accepted. Soon, a fierce battle broke out between the two, both equally strong. They eventually threw away their swords and began fighting hand-to-hand. Jintoki slammed Takasuji onto a metal plate with great force. After this, both were too exhausted to fight any longer. Still, Jintoki picked up his sword to end the battle and decided to kill his childhood friend. But he hesitated for a moment. Just then, another explosion occurred. Takashi took Takasuji and escaped the ship. Kagura told Jintoki that he had planted a bomb there, and the entire ship would explode in moments. Kagura then dragged Jintoki and jumped into the sea, but Elizabeth parachuted in and saved them both. Moments later, a massive explosion destroyed the entire ship. In the end, Jintoki and his friend made it safely to the city with Elizabeth. So, how did you like this strange and bizarre story? Let us know in the comments. See you in the next video.